Bono is very articulate. He's a sponge for information. He's incredibly eloquent. He has a very, very wide-ranging vocabulary.
I think Bono is really popular because he makes great music, the band make great music, and because they do so with a real conscience. They do care about the world.
You're a performer, you know, if you're you perform, it's like being an actor. If you're in a small club, you perform one way. I mean, maybe Bono kind of tended to perform as if he was in an arena when he was in a small club. That might have been a bit big for it, but eventually he found his range, and his range is, you know, the big stage.
He's also very capable of expressing what seem to be very personal emotions in a way that allows you to think the song is about you.
Music is not an end in itself, and he's made that absolutely clear. And I think because of that, they make even better music and people really appreciate it.
I think Bono feels very privileged, you know. His children are healthy, his marriage is healthy. He's married to a very beautiful girl. He's managed to stay living in his hometown.
I think people fell in love with the music of U2 first. But Bono is the focal point in the group. He has a huge amount of charisma, and he has the capacity to inspire a combination of passion and faith in people.
He's got a lot of dough, and I think he feels privileged, and his heart is genuinely touched by poverty and by sickness and injustice. I mean, he's genuinely moved by it. That thing that moves, for instance, a freshman student still moves Bono.
Bono's involvement put us on the global map as opposed to the UK map, I think. We suddenly started getting, as I said, letters from Argentina, Japan, places where we had no presence whatsoever, and it was purely because our address happened to be on U2's album sleeve.
He's done a tremendous amount to articulate a sense of being from Ireland and what that means and how you feel about it. And he has articulated that in song and word.
I think the fact that he sings, that he writes, that he is the main spokesperson for the band makes him, you know, there would not be a U2 without Bono, put it that way.
Bono is the epitome of a rock and roll star. As the lead singer of U2, the biggest band of the last 20 years, Bono has lived a life in which he's helped influence the direction of music, not only by writing songs about love, but also about peace and freedom. He is not only the front man for U2, but also their spiritual guide. With his quick tongue, vocal opinions and sly smile, he is indeed Mr. Charisma. Bono once famously said that all you needed to succeed in rock and roll was 3 chords and the truth. But to reach the level of U2, you also need determination. Bono was born Paul David Hewson in Dublin on the 10th of May 1960. The family home was at number 10 Cedarwood Road in Ballymun, a suburb of North Dublin. With a Protestant mother and Catholic father, Bono grew up with a strong religious faith, but avoided becoming attached to one particular religious denomination. Tragically, while Bono was only 14, his mother Iris died of a brain hemorrhage. This event would shape his life forever.
I was born in Ballymun, and just in between Ballymun and Finglas. I'd heard of this fella called Paul Hewson, like he was fairly notorious.
During the mid-70s, Bono attended Dublin's Mount Temple Secondary School. Due to his loud character, he received the nickname Bono Vox after a hearing aid sold in a store in Dublin. This was later shortened to Bono. Donald Moxham was Bono's teacher at Mount Temple.
My memories of Bono are certainly I taught him history up to Leaving Certificate Standard, an extremely dynamic, interested student in the classroom. Challenging in a very positive way, and that's genuinely what I can remember about him.
While attending Mount Temple, he would meet his best friends, all destined to become his fellow members of U2.
It was a very, I would say, progressive school, and that was largely due to the first principal of the school, John Brooks.
At Mount Temple, there was open discussion of ideas, individuality was encouraged, and different opinions tolerated in an atmosphere free from the bigotry and discrimination found elsewhere.
I'm an Irishman and I live in Ireland, and I believe in the country north and south, so, you know, I'm literally, you know, torn in two about it myself.
About 1976, I was approached by Larry Mullen, and he said that he and a group of others were forming a band, and they wanted permission. They had asked the principal, again John Brooks, could they practice in the school? And John Brooks said, yes, you can practice, but he said, you must get a teacher to accept responsibility for you. Larry approached me, and so I accepted responsibility for them. That really meant they practiced in that room down there, and I would open the door on a Saturday and a Wednesday. They would practice here for a few hours, and then I would lock up after them and basically supervise their making sure everything went according to plan. And that went on for a few years.
We pushed for things that nobody else did. We asked for things that people hadn't asked for before, so teachers and that sort of said, well, you can't do any harm and all that sort of stuff. So got things like rooms to rehearse, and that's about it. Just things like rooms, we're able to stay there late.
Jerry Ryan is Ireland's #1 radio personality and a close personal friend of Bono's.
The first time I ever saw the band, if I recall, this would have been a hybrid of U2, and of course it was Larry Mullen's band at the time. And I think maybe some of the Virgin Prunes might have been playing with them, or maybe it was The Edge's brother Dick Evans, who's also a guitar player, and I saw them playing at a school dance in Mount Temple, which was just down the road from where I lived and from where I went to school.
There are a lot of people in this city a lot worse off than we were. Okay, you know, we never got anything given to us on the plate, anything. But there's a lot of people far worse off than we were, so I think it would be wrong for me, for Larry to talk about the old days in any sense of we overcome all these obstacles. There were a lot of obstacles to overcome, but there are other bands out there that are, you know, fighting for the price of strings.
If you ask me, did I expect them to become famous, the answer is no. I didn't think to be. I thought it was a phase they were going through, and that they would get it out of their system, but I still support them. It was something, they were enthusiastic about it, so I would encourage them in their enthusiasm.
People forget that this was still pretty much a kind of hippie time. It was the time of Steve Hillage and Camembert Green and the Electric Teapot and Tangerine Dream. I mean, you know, when we think back to those days, it's incredible that U2 developed out of this kind of mixture of punk and hippiedom.
We never ever sat down and thought about, well, this would be a great sound. I mean, we were basically influenced by things like seeing the Pistols or Clash or even the Jam on Top of the Pops.